The love that danced with the stars, a tale of two hearts and the passage of time. I see my future in your eyes, Amma, Kofi said one evening, the air growing cool as the sun dipped behind the horizon, casting a warm orange glow on the earth. They sat side by side near a small fire, the crackling of the flames the only sound filling the quiet night. Amma turned her head slowly toward him, her heart beating faster at his words. She hadn't expected him to say this, not now, not with the soft glow of the fire casting shadows on their faces. It had always been clear to her that they had something special, but this was different. What do you mean, Kofi? She asked, her voice trembling slightly, though she tried to hide it. Kofi shifted closer to her, his eyes fixed on hers, a soft, steady gaze that made Amma's heart flutter. I mean that when I look at you, I see everything. I see all the moments we've shared and all the ones yet to come. I see my future, Amma, my life with you. I've never been more certain of anything. Amma felt the weight of his words settle in her chest. She had always known that Kofi was a man of few words, but when he did speak, it was with an honesty that pierced right through her. She had grown used to his calm presence, his steady smile that reassured her on days when the world felt too loud and too overwhelming. But hearing him say that, with such sincerity, brought something different to the surface, a fear, an uncertainty, and yet a longing. Her eyes searched his face, looking for something she could hold on to. Are you sure, Kofi? Marriage, a future together. It's not something you can just walk away from. He smiled gently, his hand reaching out to hers, fingers brushing softly. I've never been more sure, Amma. I don't want to walk away from you. Not now, not ever. Amma's breath caught. She hadn't expected him to say those words, so simple, yet so weighty. She had never thought about forever in such concrete terms. It had always been something distant, something that belonged to other people, not to her. Yet now, with Kofi sitting before her, offering her his heart so openly, the idea of a future with him seemed possible. She smiled, her voice quiet but filled with warmth. I never thought you'd say something like that. I've always thought it, Amma, Kofi replied, his voice steady. But I wanted to be sure, to be certain. And now I am. Amma felt a wave of warmth spread through her chest. Okay, she whispered. I think I could see that too. For the first time, she allowed herself to picture a life with Kofi, a simple life, filled with laughter and love. She felt the tension ease from her shoulders, as if a door had quietly opened before her. In the weeks that followed, Amma and Kofi's connection only deepened. They spent every evening together, walking through the village, their steps falling into rhythm. It was as if they had known each other for years, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. Kofi never rushed her, never pushed her to open up. He simply was. He was there when she needed him, when she was happy or sad, and when she was lost in thought. He was the steady presence in her life that kept her grounded. I never thought I would feel this way about someone, Kofi, Amma confessed one evening, as they sat on a soft patch of grass, watching the stars appear in the sky above them. I've always kept to myself, you know. But with you, I feel like I can just be. No pretenses. No walls. Kofi turned to her, his expression tender. You don't have to be anything other than yourself, Amma. I love you for who you are. Not who you think you should be. Those words lingered in her mind, resonating deeply within her. For the first time in her life, she felt truly seen, not just for her beauty or her kindness, but for the part of her that even she struggled to understand. Kofi didn't try to fix her or change her. He simply accepted her, flaws and all. Their evenings together grew longer as their love blossomed. They shared stories of their childhood, their fears, and their dreams. Kofi spoke of the life he imagined, quiet, humble, but full of love and hope. Amma, too, found herself dreaming of a future with him, imagining what it would be like to wake up every morning beside him, to walk through life hand in hand. I want to build something with you, Amma, Kofi said one evening, his voice barely above a whisper. A life. A home. Something that's ours. I want that too, she replied softly, her heart swelling with affection. As the weeks turned into months, Kofi's thoughts became consumed by one thing, the promise he had made to himself. He wanted to marry Amma. He had no doubt in his mind that she was the one for him, the one he wanted to grow old with. The proposal came one evening after a quiet meal they had prepared together. Kofi had been planning this moment for days, and now, with the moon high above them and the village asleep, he knew it was time. Amma, Kofi began, his voice calm but filled with something else, something deeper. He reached for her hands, his fingers trembling slightly. I can't imagine my life without you. Every moment we've shared has been more than I could have ever asked for. Will you marry me? Amma felt her heart stop for a brief second, the weight of his words sinking in. Her thoughts became a swirl of emotions, joy, fear, love, doubt. She had never thought about marriage in such a definitive way, and now that the question was before her, she felt as though she were standing at the edge of a cliff, unsure of whether she was ready to jump. She searched his face, her own heart racing. Kofi, I know it's a big step, but I'm ready. I've always been ready for this, he said, his eyes filled with nothing but trust and love. I want you by my side forever. Amma felt a lump form in her throat. I don't know. I can't imagine my life without you, Kofi said softly, reaching out to take her hand again, his voice quiet but insistent. But I'll give you the time you need. As the wedding day grew closer, Amma found herself withdrawing. She started spending more time alone, lost in her thoughts. The joy she had once felt was slowly being replaced by anxiety. The thought of being someone's wife, the permanence of it, filled her with dread. She found herself questioning everything, from their love to her own readiness for such a monumental commitment. Kofi noticed the change. She had stopped laughing as much, stopped talking about their future with the same enthusiasm. At night, when they sat together, the silence between them seemed thicker, heavier. Amma, Kofi said one night, his voice soft but concerned. Is everything okay? You've been so distant lately. Amma looked at him, her heart aching at the hurt in his eyes. I'm thinking, Kofi. I'm not sure about this. I don't know if I'm ready for marriage. Kofi sat up, his face growing more serious. But we've talked about this, Amma. We've made plans. I thought we were in this together. I thought I was, too, she whispered, her voice trembling. But I'm scared, Kofi. I'm scared of making a mistake. I'm scared of not being enough for you, of failing. He reached for her, his fingers brushing her cheek, but she pulled away, unable to meet his gaze. I can't do this, Kofi. I can't marry you. The decision was made on the night before the wedding, in the quiet of their home. Amma had never felt more alone than she did in that moment, standing in front of Kofi with the weight of their unspoken words between them. I can't do it, Kofi, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I can't marry you tomorrow. I'm sorry. Kofi's heart shattered as he looked at her, his eyes searching hers for some sign that this wasn't real. Amma, no. We've been through so much. You can't just. I'm sorry, she repeated, her voice shaking. I love you, but I can't marry you. Not like this. I'm not ready. I can't promise you forever. He took a step back, as though her words had physically knocked him away. He couldn't bring himself to say anything more. The silence was unbearable, the weight of her rejection like a heavy stone between them. I understand, Kofi finally whispered, his voice breaking. But I don't know if I can forgive you for this. She didn't respond. She simply turned away, her heart breaking with each step she took away from him. The next morning, when the sun rose and the village stirred with preparations for the wedding, Amma stood by the window, watching the world move around her. She had made her decision, but it had come at a cost. She had lost Kofi, not because she wanted to, but because she was too afraid to take the leap. Kofi, too, had spent the morning alone. His heart was heavy, and though he couldn't bring himself to go through with the ceremony, he couldn't bring himself to hate her either. He simply walked away, his dreams of a future with Amma now slipping through his fingers. In the end, their love was not enough. The promise of forever faded, leaving behind nothing but memories of a love that could have been, but never fully took root. They never spoke again.